The purpose of today's conversation and really this six-part series that's going to happen starting today over the next 6 months is to engage our community in conversation about the bricks that really build a thriving community. This conversation will not be exhaustive of all the things that make communities great. We have six very unique topics, but all ones that we think connect to the Albion community. And each conversation will feature three key speakers, one from the Albion community, one who represents Albion College and their role in the Albion community, and then one who comes to us from an outside perspective. They may be an area expert on community development or placemaking, but they might be able to look at our community or of Albion and offer some unique perspective. And they may have maybe 5 years down the road ahead of us and may be able to tell us a few things we should watch out for along the way. So this series is really intended to get us thinking about some of the things that build thriving communities and what we can do as individuals, as the groups that we are a part of in our community, and as a whole, to make our community the best it possibly can be. So before I get started, I'd like to remind you all to stay on mute for the duration of the conversation so that we don't have competing background noise. During the Q&A portion, which will be the second half of the conversation, you are welcome to unmute yourself to ask your question to the panelists or to the group, or you can use the chat feature and that will come to me, and I'm happy to moderate the question to the panelists as well. I'll briefly introduce our featured speakers and then we'll get off and running because we have a lot to accomplish in an hour. So today joining us, first we have Jason Duff, founder and CEO of Small Nation. He is joining us from Bellefontaine, Ohio. Second, we'll be hearing from Dr. Mathew Johnson, president of Albion College. And finally, we'll be hearing from Haley Snyder, the newly appointed city manager in the city of Albion. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Jason and he's going to kick us off.
Thank you, Caroline, and hello, everyone. My name is Jason Duff, and I want to share, I had a great conversation with Caroline learning more about Albion and your community, and we share a lot of really similar passions. One is we love small towns, and we both kind of grew up in family business. My parents had businesses in construction materials, and my mom also operated a Hallmark store. So my gift wrapping skills, I can wrap a gift in 3 minutes or less. I'm the first generation college student. I ended up finding a university, I had a music teacher in high school that said, you know, Jason, you're pretty good. And again, coming from a pretty traditional conservative small business family, if you really want to shock your parents, you say you're going to a liberal arts institution to be a music major. And I fell in love with a school, a small university in Ohio called Ohio Northern University, which is really interesting because in some of the roles that I serve at the university now, Albion College has come up as a peer school, very similar to our university, because we blend both professional programs like business and pharmacy and law, along with a liberal arts institution. So when I had a chance to connect with Caroline and learn about your town, I literally was very excited about that. Let me tell you about the work that I do. Is I focus on a town of 13,000 people in Bellefontaine, Ohio. Bellefontaine was an underrated town that about 10 years ago, 80% of the storefronts were vacant, boarded up, and empty. And many of my friends and I, we wanted to leave. While Bellefontaine wasn't our hometown, we wanted to leave the small towns that we were from because they lacked the quality of amenities. And we wanted to focus on the things that the big city could provide us. That was great coffee shops. That was craft beer bars. That was restaurants. That was places that we could convene, dream up our ideas, meet people, and find great places to live. So actually having loft apartments. So after having a little bit of the big city experience and realizing how lonely and difficult it can be, I and some of my friends about 15 years ago decided to come back and descend on a town of 13,000 people. We started buying buildings here for not a lot of cost. The real estate economy got so bad that many building owners, instead of paying the real estate taxes, the insurance, the upkeep, they'd rather sell the building at a pretty low cost. Most of the buildings that we acquired here were under $50,000. And then we started to find people that had their dream and their passion, their unique ability was opening up a dine-in restaurant, was wanting to bring coffee back to a small town. So we created this environment where you could test out your idea, incubate it here. And we united people that had good ideas with people that had financial resources, and then work with our mayor, our local building officials to really get the regulations and rules out of the way. Because we found that there's silos kind of between those three groups of people. And when you get those, like Caroline in this conversation today, when you get those people talking and really working together, big things can happen. So let's fast forward to where we are today. My team and I have started 7 downtown restaurants in our community of 13,000 people. Some of them have been featured on the Food Network. For example, Brittany Saxton, which is a mom of 3 kids, started making brick oven pizzas in our town. She actually found a mentor in the pizza industry and she started washing dishes. She became a line cook. She became a pizza chef, assistant manager, and that mentor encouraged her to go start her own restaurant. And her first restaurant was here in Bellefontaine, Ohio. That's called 600 Downtown Brick Oven Pizzeria. For the last 6 years, she's been in business. She's been on the Food Network. And then last year, she got invited to the Rose Garden to be featured with President Trump to talk about her starting her second business in town, which is Bellavino Events and Wine Room, using the Opportunity Zone, which is a particular economic tool that allows business owners to take advantage of tax breaks for starting businesses in areas that are hurting. Later on, I could tell you stories about bringing craft beer to our town, meeting a group of guys that founded the Bellefontaine Body Bearding Club. Yes, you heard me correct. It's a group of 28 guys that compete in bearding competitions around the country that just happen to be in our town. And you'll hear me talk a lot. I love people that are weird, funky, and fun because that's kind of who I am. And so when our town started focusing on some of those unique qualities of what made our town weird, funky, and fun, that actually turned into really great business ideas. And these guys, they hosted an event at our historic theater, which was under restoration. They raised thousands of dollars by doing events at our theater that has now seen that theater completely restored. And I'm just talking with them and hearing about, like, guys, you have this whole tribe of people that follow you. And I'm so happy I attended your event because I ate great food, I listened to really great music, and I drank some of the most unique craft beer that I've ever had. In hearing them, one was a surveyor, another one was a chimney sweep. They were in their late 30s and they were sharing with me, they were being vulnerable with me, sharing, our bodies are kind of wearing out doing this kind of very intensive labor work. And I said, well, what do you guys dream about at night? And they said, we dream about bringing craft beer to our small town. So 5 years ago, we visioned up the idea to create the Brew Fountain in Bellefontaine. And for the last 3 years running, it's been rated the #1 craft beer bar in Ohio. That was restaurant number 2. Since then, we found ways to bring and focus on to building a culture around food, local food, and finding partnerships where home-based bakers can take that path and that progression to open up a commercial operation, finding ways to provide creative financing sources like private money loans, and then really getting people talking together to build and become a destination for food. So that has been there. As we fast forward to the 7 restaurants, our team has renovated more than 40 historic buildings in Bellefontaine, Ohio, over $30 million in new private investment. And there's over 50 new specialty retail, office, and restaurant tenants that occupy many of these buildings, and then 26 loft apartments. I'm really proud of those statistics, but let me tell you what's even cooler is that out of the businesses that have been started here in the last 8 years, more than 70% of them are started by people that are under the age of 40, and 80% of them are women. So we have this rock star leading group of young ladies that are really completely changing this town. Why I'm sharing this is we want our story, our mistakes, our challenges, our lessons to help other towns that are around the country. And there's a lot of towns just like ours that really need that advice, that coaching, and that support. So we created a website where a lot of this materials are downloadable for free to learn about how to start a bakery in your town, how to bring loft apartments to your town, how to start a gourmet pizzeria, why antique malls are so much better than any other retail because it's not available on Amazon. We provided this in case studies on our website, which is at smallnationstrong.com. And we'll make sure that everyone gets a link to that. But I encourage you to take a look at it. What I want to use most of our time today is to really answer questions and kind of deep dive into critical issues that your community may be facing that I can share advice on. I know COVID has been on the minds for a lot of us, and I will share with you, our town has been doing better through COVID and now post-COVID because of really working to focus on online ordering in all the restaurants, really helping as many businesses take advantage of the PPP, the EIDL, and other programs that are available. And now as we're coming out of COVID, small towns are really looked at that great place for co-working, that great place to escape and feel safe. And naturally, small towns and rural communities are socially distanced. So there's a lot of things I'm very bullish and positive about that I think can help towns like yours. And I look forward to providing as much help, advice, and support that I can, but appreciate being a guest today. So Caroline, I'm going to just turn that back to you.
Thank you, Jason. And I failed to mention, the topic for today's conversation is why investing in our small towns like Bell Fountain, like Albion, really matter now, maybe more than ever. So that's sort of the information that I gave our speakers today, and Jason did a great introduction to Bell Fountain. And now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Mathew Johnson, president of Albion College, to hear his perspective on why investing in small towns is meaningful for liberal arts institutions and Albion College specifically. Dr. Johnson, you're on mute. We can't hear you. Here we go.
PhD means push here, dummy, so you can turn on the volume, right? Well, thank you, Jason, for those insightful comments, and thank you, Caroline, for the introduction and for having me on today. I want to say that investing in our small community is an amazing time to do that, because the investment here can transform some of the systemic issues that we know are present in many of our cities. And small cities are where a modest investment can make an enormous change. We see that in some of the downtown investment that's already been taking place here in Albion. When the system is smaller, it's easier to leverage change. And some of the changes that we are working on here at the college in partnership with the city and others are changes around social determinants of health, because we know that our citizens need to be sort of freed, if you will, from the concerns that are created by inadequate provision of the social determinants of health. We know that folks in the community need economic opportunity. We know that folks in the community need educational access and affordable housing, transportation, and food access. These 6 issues are the issues that we're thinking about all the time here at the college. And part of what we've started talking about is that we want to be a place that lives the liberal arts. And we challenge our students to think critically about these persistent challenges in their communities and in this community, in classrooms and in conversations across campus and in the cafeteria. But we don't engage them traditionally in those challenges. At least most higher education institutions don't. But Albion has a tradition of engaged learning, and we are doubling down on that engaged learning, because we believe you don't practice for the Olympics in a classroom for 4 years and then step on the field the first time you're in a competition. We need students to be out there in the world, engaged in these challenges and working in partnership with community towards solutions. So we like to say we're a college that's focused on doing more than saying. And some simple things we've done already. We've made a partnership with the YMCA. That partnership will allow us to open the entire campus in the fall to everyone in the city for the first time in a long time, because the YMCA can steward the opening of the campus in a way that the college can't do on its own. So we looked for a partner who could do that, who could open the campus, open our pool, open our track, open our classrooms to use by the community in a way that it hasn't been before. We know that that's a resource that's important for the development of this community. We've partnered with the Albion Healthcare Alliance to start the Community Table of Albion, which is a child organization of the commission that will be focused on food security. We have land here at the college. We'll be doing some food production in the fall. across the summer and into the fall, and starting to engage our students in thinking about what food security would look like for this region and how we might incent either a co-op or additional food providers in the region. And we're taking on the largest development project in the college's recent history. In fact, in many years since we did a science complex. And that development project is to redevelop a middle school that became the property of the college about 8 years ago when the school district was annexed by the neighboring school district. And we're choosing to develop that building. At the end of the day, it's going to be somewhere near 300,000 square feet. It's going to be very large, into an integrated arts facility and destination for arts performances, so that people come from other towns to this town to see our theater, to see our musical performances, to see our art gallery, to see the museum we will put in the hallways that documents the African-American history of this town, and to see and engage with the YMCA, which will occupy part of the building. So we're choosing to redevelop that large facility as a true shared space, a third space, if you will, that sits between the college and the community. And we're going to build out from there. We've also been looking at new educational practices, and we'll be adding a certificate in engaged learning and building in the bank downtown some engaged learning opportunities, a collaborative where students can be consultants, and a small business incubator where students can work on building businesses. And we also want to say that we think about ourselves as an anchor institution. So we're thinking about things like high speed, and how do we bring high speed internet into the community? How can we leverage our role as a consumer of high speed to bring it in to the community for everyone? And how can we leverage our buying power to change the food economy, as I mentioned before? And finally, in closing, how can we leverage our need to build housing to start to partner with the city and others to build affordable housing and retirement housing in the community that we know is an urgent need? So in all those ways, we're thinking differently than most colleges. We're trying to do rather than just say.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. And finally, I'll turn it over to Haley Snyder, our current and new city manager.
Thank you, Caroline. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and present to all of you. The main function for the city, we are responsible for providing services to all residents within our community. With the increase in new development and investment into our community, that increases the city revenues. City revenues are made up of property taxes, income taxes, and a portion from the state shared revenues. So any new investment and development into the community, it essentially will generate more revenues to be able to provide more efficient services to our residents. So with more access to, with more development and investment to the community, it provides the city with access to additional resources. We're able to utilize those investments, and they can be leveraged to improve public infrastructure that otherwise would have to be paid for solely by the entire community. For instance, with the recent expansion at Knopf Manufacturing, the city was able to obtain an economic development transportation grant to go towards redoing a portion of a roadway here in our community. So we were able to leverage those 30 new jobs that came into our community from this recent investment, and we're able to use that to kind of reduce some of the financial burdens that would be put on to the city and our residents to maintain those road improvements. So that's a win right there. By having additional investment, we can it opens the door to future resources for the city. As more investment and development come into our community, that risk and reward kind of is eliminated. With each development project being undertaken, the risk element of a development is reduced because the successfulness of prior or other projects have demonstrated that it is possible to come to our community and to have a successful business or housing development. So every time we attract new investment and development, we reduce that risk for other opportunities. And also when we have more investment, locally, it kind of creates a ripple effect in the community. We noticed that a lot of our buildings downtown have a lot of development has taken place, and with that, it will kind of, the ripple effect will go into our neighborhoods. We have started to see a lot of the homes within some of the surrounding neighborhoods start to become up maintained, and a lot of improvements have been made. So by having those homes being done, it kind of spurs the investment into the neighborhoods, which is always a win with that. And then most importantly, when we have new investment coming into our community, it just brings awareness to our community. It puts Albion on the map, and it invites more developers and future investment into our community. Each investment brings more light to Albion, and it kind of bridges the divide between having to create opportunities and opportunities happening naturally. So the more investment and the more development and opportunities we have in our community, and the diverse population we have here, we can kind of have those opportunities and new projects happen naturally instead of looking at different ways to kind of attract people to our community. And with that, I think I'll turn it back over to you, Caroline.
Great, thank you, Haley. I think we've heard that investment can mean a lot of different things. It can mean entrepreneurs building their own business. It can mean an anchor institution using its buying power to better its broader community. And it can also mean leveraging jobs and resources to make the community better for all its residents. So clearly investment means a lot of different things, but it is all in good progress and meant to better the lives of the residents and those who may visit the community of Albion, Bell Fountain, any place in between. And this conversation that we're having today, I imagine is not unique. There are many small towns that are working to figure out what their next iteration is. Many towns like Albion have seen disinvestment over the years, and they're working on pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and figuring out what might be next and who that next generation of leaders for their community may be. So before we move into Q&A from the audience, I have a couple questions that I'd like to offer to our panelists, and anyone can answer, any of the panelists can answer, or we can do sort of popcorn. I'll leave it up to the three of you. But first, I'd like to ask, from your experience, do you have any sort of leading indicators? We're all looking for data. We want numbers that help us know we're headed in the right direction. But so often, those come later. You don't see the people moving in until the money has been spent on brand new apartments. You don't see the revenue from the restaurant until 3, 4, 5 years down the road when they're finally breaking even. So I'm interested if any of the three of you have leading indicators that help you know we're headed in the right direction or headed in a positive direction.
Yeah, I can jump in and respond to that. So sometimes I think we get stuck in overcomplicating that process. And there's lots of, and I even see this in higher ed. So since I have graduated as an alum of the university, I was on the alumni board and I served in volunteer capacities, but I also was invited to be a part of the board of trustees about 10 years ago. And I take that role very seriously. But what I've learned about, in my own private businesses, we work with consultants, and I think that what can happen sometimes is we hire consultants to hire consultants when sometimes the data is just right in front of our face, or maybe it's easier to access through just asking a poll on Facebook, taking a short question where, hey, there's an empty building in town, posting a picture of that and asking the community, when you dream at night, what do you see here? And what's been interesting to me is when you start some of those really basic visioning activities, those people with good ideas start to bubble up. And then what I think it's our duty to say, okay, if we want to recruit this business to our town, and I was so excited to hear the president speak about the partnership with the YMCA. So amenities right now are really what for us to focus on recruiting students, for us to focus on making our town livable, so faculty, when we're doing those searches, they want to live in our town. It is going to be childcare. It is going to be fitness and health facilities. It is going to be those kind of amenities that make our town strong. And so what I would like to encourage, I think consultants are helpful, and many of them can be, but it's easy to get stuck in the process where we have these awesome binders and PDFs and these reports, but we're not taking the time to really think about what are the actionable items that we as a group can really take hold of to get some momentum and traction on things.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, I think what you've sort of spoken to is attracting faculty and staff to an institution. That goes across not just from colleges, that's recruiting larger businesses to join our community of businesses, and to just make Albion a more livable community for the residents who are here already. I know many young moms and dads who would love another childcare option, and would love to have greater access for recreation programming, and we're on the path towards that with the partnership with the city and the college and the YMCA. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and I completely agree. Sometimes plans get over planned and then we don't know what to do. So at the end of today, I'll challenge all of you to ask yourselves, based on the information that I've heard today, what can I do to help move this forward as an individual or as a part of the group that I might have some influence in our community. So just another question to the group, or to our panelists. Each of you are in a position of leadership. And if an average citizen walked up to you today, tomorrow, next week, and said, I feel like I don't know what I can do for my community. I see this positivity, I see progress, but I don't know what I as an individual can do. I can't write you $1 million check. I can't bring you the next leader of the nonprofit. I can't do those things, but what as an individual can I do to help my community move forward or be supportive? I'd love to hear an answer for that from each of our speakers.
Yes, Caroline, if I may, I think to encourage them to support the local businesses and different things that we currently do have in our community by supporting and just by simply supporting the business that will obviously help them, but then also will get the word out that to other people that and bring more, like I said, just making just bringing awareness to the community. You may not be able to invest financially, but if you visit some of our local businesses downtown and then you travel to a surrounding community and you share, hey, I was in Albion last week and I visited this stop, or I stopped at their new bakery and I had a donut there, and just simply getting the word of mouth, sharing about Albion by word of mouth and getting that out to other residents within our community, but the other surrounding communities, and really just encouraging more people to visit and invest in our community. I think that would be the first step. If you don't have the means to start your own or donate, I think just by supporting what already is here goes a long way.
Agreed. Dr. Johnson, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would say, figure out what your passion is and start just one hour a week on that passion. And you don't have to know where it's going to go, but engage. So if your passion is kids, go and volunteer at Kids and Stuff. If your passion is baked goods, go and hang out at the bakery. If your passion is robotics, then go and hang out at the Albion Robotics Lab. There's lots of different ways to engage in community, and the point is just to pick a passion and engage. And what will happen over time is you will meet the people who are similarly engaged in that passion, and they will pull you into the activity of the community, and you will become part of the community and part of the energy that builds the community. The thing that kills communities is when people stay at home. in their houses, in front of their iPads. And so I would say engage, put your mask on, keep your social distance, and engage.
Absolutely.
Love both of those comments, and I'm going to kind of move to tie both of them together, and is the aspect of showing appreciation and gratitude. I think right now, for those of us that have been leading anything, and that could be your church choir, that could be the Boy Scout troop, that could be leading a university, leadership is a very lonely world, and leaders don't talk about this enough. And so just showing your gratitude and support. And I'll give you one strategy, and I do agree with the president, let's get out of our homes and let's start supporting local. But I'll share one strategy that we had that worked really well in our town is that while people were at home, we understood how important reviews are in a small business in a local community today. So we organized your Review Your Local Everything Army. And these are folks that would, in a positive way, if they aided a business, they shopped at a business, they supported an organization, we taught them how to leave compelling, strong, and positive reviews so that our town, when you Google it, you'd want to see that, wow, there's great things to drive within a half an hour away, and look at all these positive reviews of businesses that I didn't even know existed, and what made those businesses or organizations really special. So that is one actionable strategy, is get your review army, especially if you've got 1,500 college students that we could engage in this process. You could see how that could fuel people from all around, knowing that Albion College is united with its internet positive review army.
I love that idea. Thank you, Jason. So with about a half hour left, I want to open it up for questions from the audience. I've got a few here on my sheet, but I want to make sure that you all here feel engaged. So if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself. If you would prefer to stay muted, you can send it to me in the chat and I will share it. Does anyone have a first question?
Haley, I'm sorry, Caroline.
Yes.
Hey, this is Michael Virginia with Graphics 3. I just want everyone to know I'm an outsider in this community. I work for a company that isn't based in Albion. I don't live in Albion, but I deal with customers in that community, and I believe in Albion. I love what you guys are doing. I love this meeting in general. I love what I've seen you guys do in the last few years. I've been dealing with the community, and I love the momentum that's still going here. And I just wanted to share that with everybody. I think this has all just been really great stuff. And I believe in Albion, so let's go.
Thanks, Mike. We'll make sure you're in our positive review everything army. If I got that right, we'll add you to that army.
Hello, I'm Barbara Welch, and I'm a developer, small developer that I'm also an outsider. Like the last individual that commented. And my question is to Jason. In your experience as you work to develop the city, and I will say that Albion has been very welcoming. I've had some wonderful meetings, and I've been working with the city and others for almost 2 years now, probably two or more, in developing homes near the college. And in your experience, what has been some efforts or strategies that you found were helpful for those early takers, kind of the pioneers that were, coming into a small town and really partnering, really trying to support and really wanting to be a part of what is happening? What were some strategies that you kind of learned along the way that helped in that process of kind of bridging that gap?
Yeah, great question, Barbara. And I'm going to kind of refer back to what Haley said earlier in the city, is that we need to support our local system first. So, if new investment's going to come in, one of the things that new investors are going to ask is that, how is the local business community doing? Who is making money? and what things are actually missing. And what I see happen in a lot of towns is that there maybe not be a continuity plan, that a business has been around for 30 years and there's really no one to take it over. And sometimes business owners get a little angry, a little frustrated, a little tired. And then there's not really a continuity plan to move that over. And so the other issue that I see is that sometimes there's this feeling that locals don't support my business. They go out of town to buy these things. And that can be a number of reasons. Maybe they're not appealing with their marketing to the next generation. Maybe that would be that they're not serving the kind of products, the right pricing. So I'd say let's work to really study who the people are that are taking risk right now, how we can coach them, mentor them, resource them correctly. But now let's also identify the gaps. And the gaps would be, we're missing that great 24-hour fitness gym. We're missing the great local coffee shop. We're missing the town bakery. And then what can we do to work with investors that maybe say they want to buy a downtown building? They want to take that risk, and we want to recruit and find operators that can lease or run that business. So, I would first say, let's start with the locals. If you want an idea or strategy that may help, maybe we do a local business pitch competition where we work with a community foundation or the chamber and say, we're going to throw out a $10,000 prize and listen and solicit to the community what ideas may be of what businesses we think would work in the town. And there's a prize money if you're willing to incubate and start that business in the town. And not only that, there may be people at the university that's willing to provide business coaching. There might be the marketing department that's willing to help with logo design. Like, I think it's us using this group to move some of these ideas into action phase, that with, Barbara, with your resources, like being an investor, if you hear a good idea, you may say, I'm going to buy that building, and I'd love to work with you to be the tenant for my space to really bring that idea forward. So those are just a few ideas to move them from idea to action phase.
Thank you.
I'm curious about all the panelists' experience in seeing in your own community, like Jason, but in other communities that individuals like Haley and Dr. J might have more time or have had the experience to understand. I'm curious. I understand how for-profit businesses really have a significant impact. They are drivers of job growth, and they're also the entities that are often called upon to support smaller businesses through sponsorships or all kinds of things. And I think as we look at a wider demographic of individuals, and if I think of more young people wanting to come into leadership roles, I wonder how nonprofits really play into some of the economic development of downtowns and in small communities, as I see more and more young people almost really shy away from a for-profit kind of idea. They want to have a more not-for-profit approach to ideas. But I think for some individuals, maybe even investors, that's a harder piece to sort of understand. So I'm curious about thoughts about how nonprofits play and what their role is with development in small communities.
Yeah, Emily, I'll jump in here and just say that I appreciate your question very much. Nonprofits have in many ways become the replacement anchor institutions in small communities. Here, Albion is the largest employer, and that didn't used to be the case, right? The Malleable used to be the largest employer, or a collection of the industries used to be the largest employer. And that's true across many small communities in the United States, where the large industry has left, and the large public institutions like hospitals and schools who are nonprofit are behind, and they're the anchor institutions having to pick up and do things that the large companies used to do in the past. So I think they play a crucial role. I also think that there is a third space that has been developing for about 10 years, and we're eager to try and help develop that third space here in Albion, and that is the social enterprise space. That is a for-profit entity with a social mission that kind of behaves like a nonprofit, but is operated in some ways like a business. And so that's part of how we're going to try and contribute here is to teach our students, and to the extent that community members want to join us to participate in our incubator, how to build social enterprises that do good while making a living as well. So I think there's two different ways that at least that nonprofits can play a significant role.
Great, thank you, Dr. Johnson. I'm seeing a couple of questions come into the chat, so I'm going to go over to those. First, from Patrick McLean, the director of the Ford Institute, and this is primarily for Jason. What are and what have been some of your biggest challenges, and how have you overcome them? I think Bell Fountain's probably 5 years ahead of Albion and its redevelopment journey. It's 2.0 sort of future. And so I think this is a good opportunity for us to learn what we might be on the lookout for down the road. And if we could swerve right instead of left, I think we'd probably appreciate that.
Yeah, the challenges are many. The work and conversations that we're having is not an easy road. And I mentioned earlier, it's a lonely road. I think it's starting to find out who are the luminaries and who are the people that believe in a bigger vision and a better vision for your town. Because the naysayers and naysayers are helpful because you're going to understand discernment is a healthy thing to be thinking about. All the reasons why something couldn't work. But I think in the beginning phases of visioning, we really need to think about the aspirational ideas of what we want our town to be. And so I have been really working hard to, when people, and this is a common thing that gets said, well, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. And sometimes that they gets put on the university, sometimes that they gets put on the chamber, sometimes that they gets put on the business owner. And so I removed that they, and I think it's the question that Caroline was saying with this group, what can we be doing? And I think that, I've tried to get the early momentum. I think you need a key visible project. And it doesn't have to be something big. It could be a downtown mural. It could be that we're going to light up some of the empty storefronts and just make sure that there is a for lease or for sale sign in those empty storefronts, because you never know. Someone may be coming in, a parent, an alumni that then says, I've always thought about doing that in this town. And we've got to create that environment for those chance conversations, for those people that have resources that want to do good. And I think there's no better place to do that than a college town. So I'd probably say my biggest lesson is start with your visioning and then be open to discernment. But it's okay, and this is another thing I like to do with groups, it's okay to be the contrarian. I've always been, for the last 10 years, I'm the most bullish person about small towns and rural communities. And I will share, COVID has been hard on a lot of us, but now this is really a unique way that the rules are all being reset. So it gives an opportunity to plant the flag of why your town is so distinctive, unique, and special, and why people would want to visit, live, and go to school there.
And Jason, if I can just add to that. So we're at a perfect time for our community because we are getting ready to update our current 5-year comprehensive plan. So we will be seeking input from our residents and stakeholders within our within our community on what is the vision for the next 5 years. Where do you want to see us go within our community? So it's an exciting time. We are getting ready to kind of build that vision for what the city of Albion will look like for the next 5 to 10 years. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think we're feeling that way in a lot of even our organizations. I'm a part of the Kids and Stuff board, and we're about to turn 20 years old as an anchor nonprofit in downtown Albion. And we're thinking about, quote, what do we want to be when we grow up? We love to be kids, but kids grow up, and what do we want to be? So I think COVID has, if it's taught us anything, it's definitely taught us to be creative. And I've seen that come out in my fellow community members, to make sure that food distribution continues, to make sure that we have takeout options available, to make sure that we have a little bit of joy in our days that have seemed so long and so challenging. And I do hope that a lot of that stays, is sticky enough to remain in our community post-COVID, once we get back to whatever our new normal is. A group in town recently launched Love Local weekends. So the third weekend of every month through the end of 2021 and beyond, we're encouraging all Albion residents and anybody who loves Albion to love locally. And that means go to the BOEM if you can, stop into a new business if you haven't been in, stop into a business you haven't been into in a while, or shop online. We have great success on Small Business Saturday, but that's one Saturday out of 365 days. And if anything keeps the lights on in our small towns, it's our small businesses and our small business owners, and hand in hand with our anchor institutions. And we've definitely seen that partnership both pull apart a little bit during COVID, but then also come back together and feel stronger as well. Any other questions from the audience? Don't be shy.
I have a question, if you don't mind. My name is Eddie Visco. I'm with the Ford Institute at Albion College. So Albion is a community that, like many other communities, that just has a diverse collection of people and ideas. Everything from people who've been here for 80 plus years to college students that have been here for maybe a couple of weeks and still learning about the community. So as we kind of figure out the direction of what Albion is going to take and what we want to see in this community, how do we make sure that everyone feels like they have some kind of seat at the table to be able to share their vision and their ideas for the community?
I can jump in and take that. And what I love about talking to alums of no matter what school you go to is that they love to share stories. And I think storytelling is one of the most powerful things that we just don't do enough of. And it's because there's an emotional connection to the university, to the town. And what I love to do is coming in from an outsider. And I think this is so important. You're never a prophet in your own town. And so when other people come in for the first time and walk your streets, walk the campus, I mean, I'm even just perusing the website because I've not been to your campus, but I'm learning because I've heard the school, but I'm just learning about, whoa, there's this great, theater program that's being developed there. There's these neat, assets that are in walking distance. You've got a hotel actually in your downtown. I'm so jealous of that. But it's like, then when I come in, everyone listens to what I have to say because it's an outside, fresh perspective. Now, on the flip side of that, you need that outside perspective, but you also need to honor the good old boys. You need to honor the coffee club that there are people that are 70 to 80 years old that tell the stories of what it used to be like. Like, I think it's taking all these different groups and deducing and honoring history, honoring legacy, give people the respect they deserve, but also the new ideas. We need to listen because things are changing so fast right now. And that's where, like in higher ed, why I love the industry, it's one of the most complex industries out there. That in restaurants, if you can be a university president or be a restaurant owner, there's a lot of complexities between those two jobs because things are just changing so fast. So what I just think is listening to the next generation coming in, it's like, if you guys aren't on TikTok right now, you need to be, and that's where we've got to get our towns thinking, because that's where students are. And how athletics are changing, for example, it's like, who'd ever thought that electronic games is a varsity sport? I mean, my mind is blown. But we've got to be a part of those conversations, be relevant as a community to keep our business model strong.
And if I may just add to that, just encourage participation. When we have city council meetings, when we're going to host the charrettes to receive the feedback to update our comprehensive plan, really encourage the college students, but also our residents to really participate, because this is your time to provide your input on what you would like to see happen in our community. So if we don't have that engagement or the participation, it's kind of a moot point. We don't want to make all the decisions here at City Hall. We want to hear what our community wants. So really just encourage your students to participate if they see a city meeting that's taking place and they may, there's a topic on the agenda that they find interesting. Take the time to attend that meeting and provide your input. So just really encourage engagement at all levels within our community.
Absolutely. I completely agree, and I'm excited to hear that the city's working on the plan. I know planning is hard, planning is long and tedious sometimes, but I'm excited for the action items that will come from that. Oh, I think Dr. J was going to say something. Sorry to jump in.
No worries, Caroline. I was just going to echo what Haley said. I think, you know, those of us who sit in the lonely chair that Jason mentioned, or that Haley sits in as well, I know, in her role as city manager, often extend opportunities to people to join the conversation. And it's hard for us when people say, I didn't have a chance. When you've held meetings, you've held office hours, you've invited conversation, and people have not engaged. And so it's a two-way street, and people need to be willing to step outside and engage when those opportunities are available.
Caroline, if I might. Hi, Bruce Johnston. I'm a community builder. Basically, I work in small towns like Jason does all through Michigan. I'm working in Albion with ARC and the group there. One of the things that I believe that doesn't happen enough, and where it's happened in the small town that I lived in through great results, was bringing in your clubs, your Rotary Club, your Kiwanis Club, your Lions Club, your Optimist Club, and reach out to them and say, we need your help. We want you to be a part of it. Please come and involve yourself in what we're doing. These organizations are designed to be that way, and many times they don't get invited to the ball game unless someone reaches out to them. But usually you find out if they are reached out to, they'll respond. In our small town of 8,000, there's 300 members in those 4 organizations. And when we were asked to all talk together, we formed groups to where we now guarantee a certain amount of business to any new business that'll come to town.
Thanks, Bruce. That's a great perspective. I'm just seeing our time, so we probably have time for one more question from the audience. I've got a couple here on my paper. Looks like Alex wants to ask a question.
Yeah, thanks. Quick question for Jason. In your experience, what type of industry or business most important for attracting and keeping young people?
So I'm going to paint it in the picture of a college town as well. And here's what I do. I'm a pretty competitive person. So I've been studying, you know, the university, the alma mater that I'm from is like, where are we losing students to? And why are we losing students to those towns? And I'll throw out the name of Otterbein College, and is in Westerville, Ohio, similar Methodist affiliated university to all of ours. So if you've never been to Westerville, they have this amazing downtown with 3 independent coffee shops. They've got 4 or 5 independent downtown restaurants. Yes, their proximity to a major city, to Columbus, is closer than many of the other Methodist universities in Ohio. But like I try to study what are the competitors out there, and then within that town, who are the businesses that are doing well? And then here's what's neat, and this is why I welcome you to do it with Bell Fountain. Let's rip and duplicate. Let's study those models, because there's never going to be any competition. Let's meet the owner or the founder of that business. Let's pair them up with a mentee that exists in your town, share that knowledge and those resources, and let's start budding the business scene through masterminding, through teaching, through learning. And I think that's what's so cool about Zoom and all the technology that we're at today, is that stuff doesn't have to be physical anymore. It can happen virtual. So, you know, answering with a college town, the biggest things that I hear, we talked about earlier, childcare is almost #1. And that's part of the faculty, you know, kind of thing. And if you want to get young families to come live in your town, they've got to have a place for childcare. Fitness facilities is #2, and this is an issue with strategic planning that happens at a lot of universities, depending on the development cycle and fundraising. Right now, students want yoga studios. Right now, students want 24-hour fitness, and a lot of the ways traditional universities are structured, those fitness facilities have limited hours. They're not kind of meeting some of the demands of some of the new students coming in. So that might be an entrepreneurial opportunity that could be addressed in the town. Local coffee, I think, is a must. If you're a college town, and I don't know that the case of your town, if we do not have the cool local vibe coffee shop, that is something that we've got to solve. But it's going to be those amenities that maybe if they're not provided on campus, and I think campus, they all try to do well within the food contracts that they provide, the corporate services they have to provide, but sometimes being the independent in the town and having a reason that people will make that walk from campus to the downtown and they feel safe in that downtown, that is really, really important. And I'll share today too, I think that with all the malls that are closing, now you're seeing boutiques and those kind of independent clothing stores, college wear. Like I love to see the independent alumni store actually in the downtown where you can buy all the college wear. Let's get that happening in the downtown if it's not already. Those are kind of ideas that, you know, if it was me, and again, I've only driven your town through Google Street View and what I see on the internet, but those are just some quick ideas.
Yeah, and Jason, what you see on Google Street View is vastly outdated. I'm not sure if everyone on this call knows, but in 2020 and early 2021, 5 new businesses opened in downtown Albion in the middle of a global pandemic. I would struggle to find another small town that made that happen and has rallied around its small business owners. So I think I'm seeing Donna say we've got 2 awesome coffee places. We've got the bakery. We've got Sterling Books and Brew. So I think what we all can take away from this is in our role in Albion is we've got the puzzle pieces. We've got most of the pieces there. We may still be searching for a few of those edge pieces, but we've got a lot of the pieces there. We just need to bring them together, and they're getting closer every day. I can feel it for sure. So with that, we're getting close to time, but I did want to first say thank you to our panelists, Jason, Dr. Johnson, and Haley. Thank you very much for your time. And before you log off, I wanted to remind you that this is just the first of 6 conversations. We'll be hanging out next month via Zoom again. In May, we hope to transition to an outside venue so we can see each other, masked and social distanced, of course, but so that we can see each other in person and have this conversation and feel that energy. They will be the 4th Thursday of every month from now until August. And the upcoming topics are as follows. The role of anchor institutions. We heard a lot about that today. That will be April's conversation. May's conversation is around business, small business, and entrepreneurship. June is preserving, honoring, and featuring our community history. We heard that a bit today. July is the value of arts, culture, and place. We heard a lot about third place, that third location that we're convening in. And then finally, in August, we'll talk about civic pride and how we can feel really proud about our community and how that manifests both in us personally, how we represent our business, how we represent our homes, and how that might impact how we behave out in our community. So those are just a few of the bricks that we'll be discussing as we build this thriving community. If you had fun today, please share this conversation with somebody. It will be up on the Albion Reinvestment Corporation website, not tonight, hopefully tomorrow or over the weekend. If you want to sign up for the remaining conversations, they are on albionreinvests.org/events for registration. You can also find it on Facebook. We'll be telling you all about that. You can also join the Albion Reinvestment Corporation mailing list. We'll send that out. Again, just want to say thank you all. I'm going to stay on for a few minutes if anybody has any last minute questions or things they'd like to share, but I will send you on your way and challenge you to think about what we learned today, what we talked about, and how you might implement something new in your community, whether it be Albion or elsewhere, starting tomorrow. So with that, I will say thank you, have a great evening, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Caroline. It was a great meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
Great job as always, Caroline.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to
And
see
I
you
gotta
here.
say,
Thanks for
every time I
participating.
see Ms. Dunklin's picture behind her and every one of these Albion ones, I always focus on it. It's such a great picture. Where did you get it, ma'am?
It's me.
Yes.
Where's
Yep.
the picture behind you? Where is it
The
from?
picture behind you. Every time I see you on any of the Albion stuff, it is awesome. I love that picture.
Thank you. Dr. Diane Ganalelli traveled to Africa and she brought me a piece of fabric back, and I took the piece of fabric and had it framed.
Oh, it's fabric. I thought it was a print. Every time I see it though.
It's a print in the fabric, but I had it framed. I thought it would make a good picture.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Everyone I've seen, I always notice that. I'm like, oh, I need to ask her one day.
What country? What country?
Where is Dr. Emmanuel from? I'm trying to.
Cameroon, isn't he?
Cameroon, yes.
Okay.
Cameroon, yes. They take students there usually every year, but this year they could not travel because of COVID, and so.
I'm sorry, Caroline, I hijacked it. I had to ask. Ms.
That's
Duncan.
okay. That's okay. I knew.
Thank you.
Dan, there's always a few who want to chat.
Thank you, Caroline. And the new store downtown, I finally made it to the dress store.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jenny's exceptional. She's really lovely. She's got new stuff every week, so don't hesitate to go back.
I don't need to go in there for a little bit.
So tell us what the 5 are again. What are the 5 stores?
Yep. So the 5 stores, Bumblebee Chic, that's in the North 100 block of South Superior, or North Superior, sorry. It's a home goods store owned by a couple local gals. Smart Strength, Alex, who actually answered a question. He opened a boutique fitness studio for personal and small group training. And then Cuts by Moose, which is a Black-owned barbershop, replaced a longtime barbershop in downtown. And then now I'm Even Annie, the Even Annie dress or women's clothing boutique. That's in the 414 space, so that's in between the brewery and Pure Albion. Mm-hmm. Am I missing? There's one more, right?
Did you say the Foundry, the bakery?
Yeah. Yellowbird chocolate.
The chocolate shop.
Yellowbird, yes, Yellowbird chocolate.
Okay.
Bakery is now approaching its 2nd anniversary, believe it or not.
We're not the newbie anymore.
Right, we're not the newbie on the block, which is great. We're excited to not be the newbie on the block. So yeah, I think
you always have something new and tasty in there, so you're always
we do try to. Emily works hard to have new things in the case.
I know a current senior who's renting in one of the loft apartments. She's gotten a 3-year contract to teach in Marshall, and so she's going to live in town. Yeah, Rhonda Richardson is from my hometown here, and
I saw her on Ted Everingham's Britain conversation. And when I watched the conversation, I was like, oh, I really want to figure out how to get in touch with her. I just want to let her know that we're here in town if she needs anything. I love that she wanted to stay in Albion and teach. And then she walked into the bakery the other day and I happened to be there and I said, are you LaRonda? And she goes, yeah. I was like, oh, I recognize you from your Britain conversation with Ted Everingham. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's the first time I've been recognized. Like, that's sort of weird, but kind of cool. So she was really happy about renting a new place and putting down roots in the Albion community. And I think Patrick, who was on the call, and I have had several conversations about what if we could get 10 students to stay in Albion? What does that every year, 10 graduating seniors, what does that mean for the community 10 years down the road? That's 100 new residents, that's 100 potential new families. So thinking about keeping students around. And so I wanted to make sure that I reached out to LaRonda and say, I'm so glad that you're staying, but whatever I can do to help you stay here longer, please let me know. Outside of like paying your mortgage or offering you a job, I can't do those things. But and she was with a friend who had connected with in one of Dr. Baker's classes. And it's really exciting to see some students be more excited about what's happening in town recently. And it's also that balance of catering to students, but also recognizing that much of our town is not students, and that students often go home for the summer, and often tell us that they don't have any money, which is fair. They're going to class, and they're doing what they need to do. So it's that balance of, we want them to feel welcomed and a part of the community, and be in it and put down those roots and stay, but also recognizing that there are a lot of people who turn their lights off at night and lay their head in Albion 365 days a year, and have for many, many years. So I think it's all a balancing act, but it's exciting to see students eager to be a part of the community and have found that connection. So, well, I'm going to oh, Isaac, were you going to say something?
I just have to say, the positivity coming out of this call, as an alumnus from 20 years ago, that's the most refreshing takeaway I'm getting out of this today. And you are onto something. And if you can really kindle that positivity and attract other people around you who feel and believe the same thing, the potential of the community, I really think you're going to take off. And it's so exciting to see all the good work that's been done. So, like, the best thing I can tell you is go get them.
Thanks, Isaac. Yeah, it's a real team effort. I think there's positivity in a lot of places in Albion right now. We can feel it. We felt it before the pandemic in 2020. I can remember people saying, like, 2020 is our year. Big things are happening. We are excited about it. And we didn't get too knocked down by the pandemic. A few things sort of shook us off our rockers, but we're back. And I think there's still that positivity and momentum, both in the community and at the college, and continuing to move forward. So Isaac, I challenge you to tell somebody else in your network that's familiar with Albion about what else is going on, because we need to feel it here in town, but we also need people who are familiar with us at a different time, when we may not have been so positive about ourselves, to know that we're feeling pretty good, and we want them to come back and experience it for themselves. So that's my challenge to you, Isaac.
Yeah.
Great. Well, everyone have a great evening. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we'll see you either around town or back on this conversation in April.